The lights flickered once, softly, like the house was holding its breath. I froze, not because of the power, but because of her. She was standing close enough that I could smell the faint trace of jasmine in her hair, something clean and understated. The shadows kept shifting across her face, and every time the light came back, it revealed something new, something I couldn't stop looking at. She turned toward me then, one hand braced lightly against the counter, the other hovering near my arm as if she hadn't decided yet whether to touch me or not. "Now don't move," she said quietly. Her voice wasn't a command, it was something between a warning and a confession. I didn't move. She smiled, the kind of smile that feels like it knows more than it should. "You really don't, do you?" she murmured half to herself. Maybe I should have said something clever, or anything at all, but words felt clumsy here. The space between us carried too much of everything unsaid. She was older than me, by years that showed in grace, not age. There was nothing desperate about her, nothing performed. The way she looked at me was deliberate, measured, as though she had learned long ago how dangerous attention could be, and she was choosing, carefully, to give me a little of it anyway. Her living room was dim except for the lamp that kept blinking, spilling gold light across her shoulders. I'd come by to help her fix it. That's how all this started. A loose wire, a simple task. She made tea, the kind that cooled too quickly because we forgot to drink it. She leaned slightly closer, inspecting the bulb, but her sleeve brushed against my wrist. A small thing, accidental maybe, but my pulse reacted like it wasn't. "You're very still," she said after a moment, without looking at me. "I'm just listening," I said, unsure what that even meant. Her laugh was soft, a low hum that filled the silence. "You make that sound like something serious. It feels like it." That made her finally meet my eyes. There was something unreadable in them, something caught between amusement and something heavier. The air felt warm, though nothing had changed but the distance between us. "You shouldn't say things like that," she said. "Why not?" "Because they sound like you mean them." I didn't answer. I think she expected me not to. For a while, neither of us moved. The flickering light painted her in pieces, first her eyes, then her mouth, then the soft outline of her jaw. She looked real in a way that made my chest tighten. I wanted to ask her if she'd always been this calm, if she ever got nervous too, or if she was just pretending to be unaffected. But something told me she already knew every question I hadn't asked. "Does it ever bother you?" I finally said. "What?" "Being alone." She blinked slowly. "It used to. And now? Now I have someone who fixes my lights." It was teasing, but something trembled at the edge of her tone. She looked away first, and that small surrender felt like more than it should have. The silence after was thick enough to touch. My hand brushed hers when I reached for the lamp again, but this time she didn't pull away. The moment stretched too long to be casual. And then, a sharp knock broke it. We both turned toward the door, startled, her hand still half resting over mine. The light flickered once more and went dark completely. In the darkness, I heard her breath near my ear. "Don't move," she whispered again, quieter this time, like it wasn't about the lights anymore. To be continued, the lights stayed out that night. She found a candle, just one, and set it between us on the kitchen counter. The flame threw soft, uneven light, the kind that made the edges of her face blur, as though she were both near and untouchable at once. We didn't talk at first. There was something about silence that felt safer than words. Then she said quietly, "You should go before it gets too late." I should have listened. Instead, I just nodded but didn't move. She noticed, of course, she noticed everything. She sighed, a sound halfway between amusement and regret. "You're stubborn. I just don't like leaving things half-fixed." "The light or me?" Her words landed softly, but they stayed. For a moment, I forgot how to look away. There was a faint smile on her lips, though her eyes didn't match it. That contrast, warmth and distance tangled together, was the reason I kept coming back, even when I told myself I wouldn't. She turned from me, pretending to adjust something on the counter. You remind me of someone, she said. Should I ask who? She hesitated. No. He was kind. Too kind. Did he hurt you? She let out a quiet laugh. No. I hurt him. By letting him care more than I could. The candlelight flickered across her hands, steady, graceful, the hands of someone who'd built walls out of calmness. I leaned against the counter beside her, close enough to feel the faint heat coming off her skin. Maybe he forgave you, I said. She looked at me like she wanted to believe that but didn't. Maybe he shouldn't have. That silence between us, again. It wasn't empty, it was filled with everything we didn't name. I tried to look away, but she brushed a stray bit of dust from my sleeve. Her fingers lingered a fraction too long. My breath caught. I wanted to pretend I didn't notice, but my pulse gave me away. You're trembling, she said softly. It's the candlelight, I said. That's not how that works. We both smiled then, but it didn't feel innocent. It felt like crossing a line without meaning to. Outside, rain started tapping against the window, and the room grew smaller with every drop. The air felt charged again, like the electricity from before hadn't really gone, it had just moved between us. People would talk, you know, she said after a while, eyes fixed on the flame. If they saw you here like this. I don't care. I do. But her voice lacked conviction. She turned toward me again, close enough that her breath brushed my neck as she reached for the matches. I didn't move. Couldn't. The candle's flame wavered, caught in the draft from her motion. Her hand brushed mine, steadying the base before it fell. For a second, our fingers interlocked by accident, or something that wanted to be one. Either of us spoke. Her eyes met mine, a question lingering there, half invitation, half warning. And then she said, just above a whisper, "Next time, maybe fix it in daylight." But she didn't pull her hand away. To be continued. The next morning, I told myself I wouldn't see her again. By noon, I was on her doorstep. She opened the door in soft gray, hair tied loosely, surprise flickering across her face before she masked it with a polite smile. "You again," she said. "I brought the new fuse," I managed, holding up the small plastic bag like an excuse. Her lips curved slightly. "Of course you did." She stepped aside to let me in, the scent of coffee trailing behind her. The house felt different in daylight, still quiet, but not cold. On the table sat 2 mugs. Only one had been used. "Busy morning?" I asked, just to fill the space. "Not really." She paused. "You shouldn't keep finding reasons to come here." "I'm not looking for reasons," I said. "They just happen." That earned me a glance, sharp, but softer than before. I bent to work on the fuse box, pretending focus. She stood nearby, too close for it to be casual. Every time she moved, I felt her presence before I saw her, like gravity. "You could have called an electrician," I said. "I did," she replied. "He said he'd come tomorrow." I turned slightly. "Then why?" She met my eyes. "Because you already knew where everything was." The air shifted. Either of us smiled. Then her phone buzzed on the counter. Once. Twice. A name flashed on the screen before she quickly turned it over. Her hand lingered there a moment, fingers pressed tight against the wood. "Someone important?" I asked quietly. She hesitated. "Someone who shouldn't still think he is." Something about the way she said it made my chest tighten. I wanted to ask, but she was already moving past it, picking up the coffee pot, pretending calm. The silence stretched thin again, taut with everything we weren't saying. When I stood to test the fuse, she turned at the same moment. We nearly collided, her hand on my chest, my breath catching before I could step back. "Sorry," I said quickly. She didn't move her hand right away. Her fingers curled slightly against the fabric of my shirt, just enough to feel the warmth beneath. Then she realized what she was doing and stepped back, cheeks flushing faintly. "That was," she started. "Nothing," I finished. But it wasn't. The lights came back on with a soft click, flooding the room. We both blinked, suddenly too visible. Her phone buzzed again. This time, she ignored it. And then, footsteps outside. A shadow passed the frosted glass of the door. She froze. I saw her body tense, her hand instinctively reaching for my arm. We didn't speak, just listened. A soft knock followed. She whispered, "Don't say anything." I nodded. My heartbeat was loud enough to fill the silence. After a moment, the footsteps faded away. The air stayed charged, either of us moving. When she finally looked at me, her hand was still gripping my sleeve. Slowly, she realized it, and didn't let go. "You shouldn't be here," she said again, barely above a breath. "I know." "Then why are you?" I searched her face for an answer that made sense. None did. "Because you didn't tell me not to come." Something flickered in her eyes then, fear, want, both. She opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came. The space between us dissolved. Her breath was close enough to feel, her gaze fixed on my lips. For a heartbeat, everything stopped, the world outside, the faint hum of the lights, even her hesitation. And just before the moment could break, she stepped back, not far, but enough. "This can't," she whispered. But her voice trembled like she wasn't sure she believed it. To be continued, she avoided me for days after that. No calls. No flickering lights. Just silence, deliberate, heavy silence. By the fourth day, I gave in and went to her house again. The front door was half open, as if she'd been expecting someone and lost interest in waiting. I knocked anyway. "It's me." A pause, then her voice, quieter than usual. "You shouldn't be here." "I know," I said. "But you left the door open." That earned a soft sigh, the kind that wasn't quite annoyance, and not quite welcome either. "It's hot inside," she said. "The air feels heavy." She was right. The summer evening pressed through every window, thick, unmoving. She stood by the window, hair loose, a thin line of sweat along her temple that caught the fading light. She looked tired, but in a way that felt too human to look away from. "I didn't mean to disappear," she said finally. "You did," I said. "On purpose." She turned toward me, eyes narrowed. "You make everything sound like it matters more than it should. Doesn't it? Not everything needs meaning." "Then what does this mean?" I asked, stepping closer. Her breath caught, but she didn't move away. "It means we're being stupid. Or honest." The words hung there, trembling like the air between us. She laughed softly, but it cracked halfway through. "You're too young to know what honesty costs." "Then tell me," I said, my voice lower now, almost a whisper. "Teach me." Her eyes lifted, meeting mine, and something broke in the space between us. She looked like she wanted to speak, but couldn't find language strong enough to hold what she felt. When I reached out, my hand brushed a loose strand of hair from her face. The movement was slow, uncertain, but once I touched her, I couldn't stop. My fingers traced the edge of her jaw, the soft curve of her neck where her pulse fluttered too fast. "You shouldn't," she breathed. "I know." And yet she leaned into it, just enough to undo her own words. Her eyes flickered closed, and for a heartbeat she rested her forehead against mine. The world shrank to the sound of our breathing, uneven, shared, dangerous. Then her phone buzzed again. That same name. She stiffened instantly, pulling back as if burned. The loss of her warmth hit harder than I expected. "Don't," I said. "I have to." "Why?" "Because you make me forget who I am." "That sounds like the truth," I whispered. Her voice trembled. "And that's exactly why it has to stop." I took a step closer anyway, the space between us dissolving. My hand found her waist before I could think better of it. She didn't pull away this time, her breath hitched, her fingers clutching the edge of my shirt. "Say you don't want this," I said. "Just say it, and I'll walk out that door." She didn't answer. The silence stretched, breaking only with the faint sound of her heartbeat against my chest. Her lips parted, but instead of words, she exhaled, slow, shaking. Her gaze dropped to my mouth. And then, a knock. Sharp. Immediate. We both froze. Her hand slipped away from me as the sound echoed again, louder this time. She looked at the door, then at me, her voice barely holding steady. "If you stay," she whispered, "everything changes." The doorknob turned. To be continued. The door opened before either of us could move. A man stood there, older, composed, holding the same kind of calm she wore when she wanted to hide something. His eyes went straight to me, then to her. "I knocked twice," he said, his tone neutral but not casual. "You didn't answer." She managed a faint smile. The power went out again. He was helping. Of course he was. The air went cold, though the summer heat still pressed against the walls. He looked at her the way people do when they already know the truth but want to hear the lie spoken aloud. She didn't offer one. "I should go," I said. But when I stepped forward, her hand brushed my wrist, brief, instinctive. A silent plea not to move. He noticed. Of course he did. Her voice stayed even. "It's not what you think. I think it's exactly what it looks like," he replied quietly. "You haven't changed." The words hit harder than I expected, not for me, but for her. Something in her posture faltered, the confidence slipping just enough to show the weight beneath it. He set something on the table, a key, and turned to leave. "Lock up after yourself, then," he said. "Both of you." The door shut behind him. Silence again. But this time, it wasn't warm. It was full of something raw and unfinished. She didn't move for a long time. Then, slowly, she said, "That was my husband." The words shouldn't have surprised me, but they did. "I thought," I started. "That it didn't matter?" She cut in, voice trembling. "That I was just lonely and you were just kind?" I didn't answer. The truth was, I didn't know what we were anymore. She turned away, bracing herself against the counter. "He left 6 months ago. We stopped being us long before that, but you didn't tell me," I said. "Would it have changed anything?" "Yes," I said, even though I wasn't sure it would have. She turned back to me then, eyes shining, not from tears, but from something sharper. "You think I don't know what this looks like? You think I don't wake up terrified someone will see what I can't stop feeling?" Her voice cracked on the last word, and she covered it with a bitter laugh. "You make me reckless." I stepped closer, slow, deliberate. "And you make me believe I'm not imagining this. That's exactly why you should go." "I can't." She didn't stop me when I reached for her, when my hand found her shoulder, when she turned just enough for my breath to touch her neck. Her body stilled, but her pulse betrayed her, fast, trembling under my fingertips. "Tell me you don't feel it," I whispered. Her answer came in silence, a single step closer, her hand brushing against my chest before pulling away like it burned. Her breath hitched. "You need to leave. Tonight." "I won't." She closed her eyes, shaking her head. "Then everything I've tried to protect will fall apart." "Maybe it already has," I said. She looked at me then, really looked, and something final flickered across her face. Not surrender, not defiance. Something in between. "Then I guess," she said quietly, "we stop pretending." And for the first time, she didn't step back. It rained that night. The kind of rain that didn't stop, just softened the world into quiet surrender. Her house glowed faintly from the inside, a single lamp flickering through the window. I stood outside for too long, convincing myself to leave, then not leaving. When she finally opened the door, she didn't look surprised. "I knew you'd come," she said. "I almost didn't. But you did." Her voice wasn't cold this time, just tired, raw. The kind of tired that comes from holding too much in for too long. Water dripped from my hair onto the floor. She handed me a towel without meeting my eyes. "You can't keep showing up like this." "Then tell me to stop," I said. She hesitated, too long. That was all the answer I needed. "I can't do this halfway anymore," I said, my voice low. "You make me want things I can't name without ruining them." She turned toward me, the lamplight catching the tremor in her hands. You think this is easy for me? I think you're pretending it isn't real. Her eyes flashed. It can't be real. She stopped herself, shaking her head. You're too young to understand the kind of damage this does. Then explain it to me, I said, stepping closer. Show me what I don't understand. Her breath faltered. Don't. But I was already close enough to feel her warmth, the faint smell of rain on her skin. The world outside was dark, blurred. Inside, every sound was our breathing, uneven and fragile. She tried to look away, but my hand found her face, slow, hesitant, reverent. My thumb brushed the corner of her mouth, and she froze. You shouldn't, she whispered. I already did. Her eyes closed, just for a second, and when she opened them again, something in her had shifted, all the restraint, the fear, the guilt, collapsing under the weight of what she'd been denying. I hate that I want this, she said. I don't. The distance between us vanished. She didn't pull away this time. Her forehead rested against mine, and the silence was so full it felt like sound. My hands trembled where they touched her shoulders, and her fingers caught in the fabric of my shirt like she was holding herself back through me. We stayed like that, breathing the same air, suspended in a moment that felt like confession and goodbye all at once. Then she whispered, If this happens, there's no going back. I'm not looking back, I said. Her lips brushed mine, barely, a ghost of a touch, and it was enough to undo every wall we built. But before it could become more, she drew in a sharp breath and stepped back, breaking the contact like it hurt. Her voice shook. Now you know. I swallowed, the ache in my chest almost physical. Know what? That wanting someone, she said softly, doesn't make it right. Rain thundered harder against the windows. The light flickered once, twice, then steadied. We stood there, soaked in silence, both knowing that nothing about us could ever go back to what it was. But for the first time, everything was finally true. Morning came slow, quiet, and gray, the kind of morning that didn't ask questions, just existed. The rain had stopped, leaving the air thick and clean. I stood in her kitchen again, the same space where everything had started, only this time it didn't feel like trespassing. She was by the window, hair messy, coffee cooling beside her. When she turned, she looked softer, not younger, not older, just real. Neither of us spoke for a while. The silence between us wasn't the same kind as before, not heavy, not waiting. Just peace. Finally, she said, I thought you wouldn't come back. I told you, I said. I'm not good at pretending. That made her smile, barely. I didn't sleep much. Me either. She hesitated, then asked, Do you regret it? No. I paused. Do you? Her eyes met mine, calm now. Not anymore. Something in her voice made my chest loosen, like the quiet after a storm. She set her mug down, came closer, and stopped just short of touching me. The distance between us wasn't about fear anymore. It was choice. I was afraid, she said softly. Afraid of being seen, of what it would look like, an older woman who should know better. And now? I asked. Her lips curved slightly. Now I think I just want to stop running from what's honest. I didn't say anything. I just reached for her hand slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. Her fingers slipped into mine, warm, steady. For a moment, everything else disappeared, the age, the doubt, the noise of what people would think. She stepped closer until I could feel her heartbeat through the space between us. My other hand rose almost without thought, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. Her breath trembled, but she didn't move away. I don't know what happens next, I said quietly. Neither do I, she whispered. Maybe that's the point. The simplicity of it, two people, standing too close, not hiding anymore, felt more intimate than anything that had come before. Her forehead rested against mine, eyes closed. This doesn't erase the fear, she murmured. It just makes it worth it. I smiled. Then I can live with that. Her laugh was soft, like the sound of light returning. She tilted her face up, pressed a kiss to my cheek, gentle, lingering. Not a question, not an ending, just a truth. We stayed like that, letting time stretch around us. Two people who'd spent too long resisting something that was never really wrong, just misunderstood. Outside, the light flickered again, but neither of us moved this time. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?